keeps Chico.
So-
But as far as somebody selling their plot, because there's somebody who wants to sell a plot, the family doesn't care.
And that we don't care about.
We don't care
Right,
either.
right,
That's all
until there's
there.
somebody in it.
Well,
We
you
just-
still have to bury them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I talked to Jean, but several weeks ago, it was after we talked.
Okay,
So she would like to put that map, she likes the idea that the map is going up online off the town site. And she said if you will put her on as an administrator, she will update it whenever a veteran is buried right on the map if you want. So you guys should probably just,
a veteran or anybody?
well, you'll want to change the number of burials. And then veterans would be the only people that, because you're not, we don't have a complete list, right?
Not
So it'll
yet,
just be our
we're still working
veterans that
on
are
it.
listed.
Yeah, there's still some
Marked.
unknowns, a lot of question marks, yeah.
Well, even anybody that has died recently, because we'll update their death year.
Right.
On the Excel spreadsheet.
And is your total,
I'm not totaling them,
okay,
so it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I just want like Rich and I were over there, a couple months ago now, and we couldn't tell.
Sooner than that, put the signs up.
Yeah, okay, yeah, a month ago, whenever, on February 19th.
so we don't
Yeah.
have Sarah Linda on.
When we were over there on February 19th to put a couple of the row markers, we noticed that there was a burial recently because there was dirt that was still, that was
Fresh, yeah.
disturbed. And we couldn't tell for sure who it was because we didn't know whether the burials were in the front of the stone or which side of the stone they
Right.
were on. So I've got that information, so I'll check with Jean after the meeting and
Yeah.
see who it was. I have a feeling I know who it was, but
I think it'll be very easy for you two and Jean to like stitch that up and exactly how you all want it to.
Well, and another note yesterday was just discussion. The Caprini family wants to put a bench at Academy,
Oh,
just a bench.
Oh.
So
Which
they,
family?
Caprini.
so I think he's the one that just died.
That's nice.
He
He
just
died
died.
on
yes,
That'd be a nice
New Year's
addition.
this is all connecting.
He just did die.
Yeah, New Year's Eve, yeah.
So they want to do a concrete bench. Well, we thought that was a maintenance issue. And there's this bench program.
Yeah, so Kate and Lindsay were talking after the meeting yesterday, and yeah, as some of you know, we have a bench sponsorship program that we do at our parks. The town has benches, they're all powder coated metal, and we have a company we work with to have plaques made. And they were saying, you know, that could probably be transferred to the cemeteries as well if people wanted to do that. But it would probably be that the town chooses the bench and the location, and the person can choose the wording on the plaque.
So she was gonna talk to the Caprini family.
Yeah, so
I
that
thought
was
that's what
Lindsay's
we did.
idea.
That
That's
was-
what we did for Gordy.
Are they thinking of a bench that they want to put in front of the grave site or something that just off the
It
side?
would probably be not
just
within the
kinda-
burial area, it would be
yeah,
off to
Off to
the
the side.
Okay.
side.
And that stone is pretty close to the chain link fence
Is it?
on the, that
The old
road.
Westlake Road.
Yeah, Old
Yeah.
Westlake Road, yeah.
I thought it was a nice idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
Another thing on
I
that
can't
note,
speak for Lindsay, but when they were talking about it, I was in the room and we discussed it briefly. It seems like she was supportive of the idea, just maybe a few things to work out, because we haven't typically been doing that at the cemeteries. I mean, we, as Ray mentioned, we did it for a former employee who passed away, but
does that require cemetery committee? It probably does require cemetery committee action.
well, this hasn't been done before, so
Right.
this is all new. Nothing's quite sorted out
Right.
yet, but I imagine the cemetery committee
Yeah,
would
we'll
be
make it
involved. But
a
the Parks Department
Item next.
is doing all the maintenance and mowing now, so
Hmm.
it's also kind of up to them because they're the ones who are gonna have to mow around it. So they'll have an input on where it goes, but I'm sure we'll hear from Lindsay.
Yeah.
How much does the bench weigh?
Don't know.
Okay.
So the other thing that folds into that is we were talking about the kiosk at Academy. Were you still here at the last history team meeting when we talked about the kiosk?
No, I think I ducked.
So we might as well bring
Kiosk.
that up since we're on this subject of Academy and
Mhm.
bench. So it had probably right after you left, we got talking about the map and the brochure for Academy
Uh-huh.
that Richard and Donna have done
Right.
such a great job on. And I don't know if it was Cody or one of you guys, somebody mentioned, wouldn't it be great if we had a map, a hard copy map that was displayed at the cemetery in case people didn't pick up the
Right.
brochure, and it evolved to, do we want to put up a kiosk? A really simple one, a little rough with over a bulletin board kind of deal with
Mhm.
a protected version of the brochure map.
Yeah.
And then also include a QR code so that they could pick up a digital version of the brochure that they could walk around the cemetery with.
Mhm.
So I would request, could we put that on the cemetery committee's agenda for
A
next month?
kiosk? Sure. okay.
And I will ask
That's
if it's,
at Academy only? Yeah,
Well, it
For
would
the
be
moment,
Academy, because it would be the Academy map,
right, right,
so.
and I think if it worked well,
works.
yeah, then we might consider HUN.
yeah.
Yeah,
You could have the QR code go to a page on the website that would have links to the map and brochure in case those two things were updated
Yeah.
time to time.
Mhm.
Cause otherwise, if you linked it to the map and we changed it, then we have to change the key.
Everything should
Right.
fall through the website.
Right.
I like that idea, I think that'd be nice.
Does that seem like yeah, and I think it could create the opportunity to add to the history and the interpretive experience at Academy or any other cemetery that we did it.
Yeah.
and
Obviously,
that way
that's
too,
a,
that anyone going there, if they don't know where for sure their loved one is, they'll be
Oh,
able
yeah.
to find it more easily,
Mhm.
so.
And Donna has cross-referenced some of those. Is it ultimately going to be all the families, Donna, or were you concentrating mainly on the veterans? The cross-referencing of which row family members were in?
Yeah, in my notes on the spreadsheet, I have if there's a son or a daughter or
Right.
parents or whatever
Okay.
there. And I have it in my notes, so if that is ultimately, the whole thing is loaded on the website, then yeah, that information will be there.
I mean, so that coupled with
Because-
the row signs,
Mhm.
I mean, and the map out front, I mean,
Mhm,
there isn't going to be a grave you can't find
right.
just by visiting the cemetery even.
I'm surprised how many no stones there are, because I was comparing my unknown sheets to the work that the DAR and the Genealogy Society did back whenever, that Sarah Linda had sent to us. And already there's a number of them that have no stone listed on their sheet.
Hmm.
And I've got some on mine that they don't have on theirs. Now, I don't know when they did their last walkthrough, how many years
So
ago it
that,
was. So that's interesting that we have a lot of,
yeah, and that's
a number of no stones.
like the Knott Road problem of graves with no markers.
Mm,
So, and I know we had talked about this in cemetery committee. I don't know if we've discussed it recently, but whether we wanted to periodically identify missing graves and try to mark them.
Well, we have to find them first.
Yeah, and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, so if we have it located, we know where the plot is.
Yeah.
Like Ebenezer Williams is a great example. I told you, I got shot down by the VA, which was just, I'm looking back at that stuff they sent me. I'm like, wow, you're just really, I think they're being cheap and looking for reasons. But that would be an example of a stone that we have that's unreadable.
Mhm.
Might be able to lift the name off of some of those stones with etchings, but we're obviously getting to the point where some of them, we have the stone and you can't read it, and then you got the ones that are right next to it, and you know there's somebody there, but
Yeah.
darned if there's any stone. So I don't know if that's something
Well, it comes
we
back
can,
to
your
GPR again.
lists. What's that?
It comes back to GPR again.
Yeah. And well, and the work that you guys have done, just to be able to provide the, hey, we know there's a grave here, but you know, we've got the depression, we've got the space in between two stones. Just for cemetery committee to be able to have that and just be able to wrap their arms even around the number of missing headstones and all that kind of stuff would probably be useful to you guys.
Because
Got a lot to
unfortunately,
do.
the map that the town has, which has been, you know, water damaged or whatever at one time, when it's all blacked out on one side there. It's a script, it's a small script, and there's nothing wrong with the script, but you can't always make out
Right,
a person's script.
right.
There's-
Well, I'm excited because when I started the whole noodle and the whole idea of the cemetery committee, it was because Ray had gone and done all the legwork and the hard work of preserving the gravestones that we had and
Mhm.
identifying and protecting and upgrading. But then we had this other next phase problem of missing stones, all of that. And clearly that is, you guys have, yeah, you're gonna have the numbers. You're gonna be, like, we didn't have the numbers. We haven't enumerated.
Mhm.
And now we're enumerating.
Well, yeah, when we were, in fact, last month when we were over at Academy, that first big tree, it looks like somebody may have spread some of the stones, some of the fallen stones out around the base of the tree.
Right, yes.
But you still,
Pine tree?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you still can't.
I know, I've
read
noticed
them.
that too, Don. It's like the mowers, like some of the stuff that maybe toppled or something.
Mm,
Which is better than what they've done at some of the other cemeteries where they just kind of heave them over the fence.
Yeah. So,
Um,
At least
yeah,
they're
that's gonna
still
be-
there.
what's that?
Right.
At least they're still there.
Yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
what I'm
You
thinking,
just gotta scrounge around for them.
you know? Yeah, and that's gonna be, and this is weird because we're your cemetery and you're this, and I'm both too, but
Yeah.
so the cemetery committee has completed, I think we probably discussed this before, has completed their brush remediation at Hun. Okay. What was it? 2 or 3 work weekends? 2 for
Two.
sure. It was like a party of mad beavers. It really was. It was amazing, wasn't it? I mean,
It was, and there were people who just showed up,
yeah,
you know.
it was very cool.
Dr.
Ray's wife
Marion,
came.
Dr. Marion.
Yeah.
So,
And real work. I mean, nobody was standing around. Chainsaws buzzing
Yeah.
and wood flying. And then of course Lindsay's guys came and hauled it all the way for us.
yeah.
But that now exposes, and this was the other thing I had wanted to do and was looking forward to the cemetery committee, taking charge of, is all those footstones. So that were buried in that hedgerow. Some visible, I think I counted 30, and that was just what was visible.
They just threw them over.
That's
there.
the one down where,
gosh.
at the very bottom, not the one by the house, not that line, but the back line by the
Yes,
field.
that back
The
line.
field,
And
yeah.
so the cemetery extends beyond where the
Yeah.
hedgerow was?
So-
There's a old fence there,
Yeah.
rickety fence. that,
Wow.
The farmer, it's
Where-
kind of
where
fun.
we-
Because Zach
talking-
was, because
On
Zach,
Hun. All the
On.
footstones that are in the hedgerow.
Oh,
because Zach was the lowest one down
Yeah.
against that hedgerow.
Yes,
Well-
well, we've gone beyond that
Beyond
quite a
that,
bit.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Lois Ackley's footstone is the oldest one that we found that I can assign a date to.
So you can still read what's on them or on some of them.
The initial, yeah, a lot of them have, so the typical thing was to initial a footstone.
Yeah. that's
So-
also that-
Like we got Zadok's, right, that's not with his headstone, but it's set off by itself. And just has a ZH, and it pretty nicely matches his headstone.
Mhm.
So they were usually done as en suite, if you will. So Lois Ackley's, the reason hers is significant is her husband Peter was a Revolutionary War veteran. Right, so it's an old stone.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got all these marble ones that are a bit more faded and difficult to read that are later. But so I know that's we had discussed that in cemetery committee. That would be probably a project that cemetery committee will take on in the coming year. But if the boss says that's our job.
Big list here.
But there's so much to do. But so
Job
where I wanted to go
security.
next was
Ah, yeah, I need that.
you can lean on this committee. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say we would probably all eagerly come over on any of those work weekends and get grubby helping
Well, yeah.
cemetery committee.
Setting out those
Eagerly?
stones or something,
Eagerly.
Yeah.
at least, you know.
We would do it.
Yeah,
I
there's
know
no
you
reason
would.
why
You were already there pulling weeds last time.
Yeah, something like that, let the history team know, and you never know who's gonna be able to show up. Because we had no idea that you had those Hun cemetery work days,
Well, we were new, we didn't know.
so,
We had,
yeah.
and that was
And, you know.
that was early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so we probably have what, like, I would say better than a dozen people at one.
That
Wow,
first
that's-
one, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really good.
So yes, it is. So the interestingly, and this is something else that I have to share. So the town board, and I'm going to circle back to the cemetery and us, but so the town board at their last meeting had asked all the teams and committees, a meeting previous to that, to sort of defend their right to exist. Okay. And it was for good purposes. They wanted to make sure every team and committee, especially those that are funded, are actually doing something, right? They're not just existing on paper and not doing something. So then CIC is the umbrella for a lot of them.
Yep.
Most.
Not anymore.
Um,
Not anymore?
No, last fall, the town board said that all these teams would now report to the town board.
Oh,
So we don't go through the CIC anymore.
but
Don't
everything
think that's
still
changed.
exists.
Yes.
And that's
everything
what
has
I wanted
still
to-
been given the blessing of the town board to
Oh,
proceed.
okay.
That
And that-
happened on Monday officially.
Okay, so, and that's gonna be an annual process. I think it's a good government process. I mean, I think we would all probably agree it's, good government needs to be answerable unto itself too. So we are government, you know, whether we're a paid staff member or a volunteer on a committee or a team. So, I think the town board is doing the right thing by just kind of reviewing every year. And so like, as an example, the Gateway Committee sign, you may not even have been aware of it. They had constituted a committee under Oksana Fuller as the chair to research and feasibility, design, and implement what we're calling the gateway sign. So on all of our principal highways, as you come into Canada with these new signs, most of them, 9 of them still have to be put up, right? I think there's
None
only
of them
2.
have been installed. We have
No.
6.
Okay.
And I've been working with Jim. I mean, they're all designed, they're all created. They are sitting at the company sign language waiting to be installed, but we had to get permits to install them on the county right away and the state right away, which we have. We got the final documents completed in January.
Now we're just kind of holding for the
So-
water, right?
Jim Fletcher is working directly with the sign company on plans for installation, and there will be 6. The town board did approve the budget I requested for this year for more signs, up to 5 for the final roads, but Jim and I were talking, and I don't think we're gonna do anything with it right now. It'd be nice to actually have the 6 that we already did in the ground before we move forward with doing more.
5 and 20 east and west, right?
I
So
thought they were those big, when you're talking about signs, I thought they were those big signs where,
The electronic.
yeah, the
ones,
electronic one, so it's not them, huh?
you know the new one that went in out front out here last year? They look just like that, except
Oh,
for instead of
okay.
saying town hall, they say town of Canandaigua welcomes you. But it's the
Oh.
same sign, same colors, same design scheme.
Same
Oh,
mounting
okay.
and everything.
Yep, that one
Okay.
is really large, and the rest of them, save one, are gonna be smaller. There's one that's the same size as the one out front, and it's gonna go on 332 at the entrance to the town, southbound, just south of the border with Farmington.
We have them on 21 on the town lines, right?
Not both ends of 21.
Not both, and just
the
the
south,
just the
yeah.
south end.
Yep, coming up out of, yeah, thank you. And we have one coming from East Bloomfield. We'll have one, of course, coming in from Farmington. We
Geneva?
will have one, not yet, we'll have one coming up from Gorham. We have one, actually, we have two coming in from East Bloomfield, because there's another one south of 5 and 20. We're gonna do it on the intersection of Brace Road and,
Oh, so the Canandaigua
30.
Road.
Road 30.
and, is that 6? I don't know. So there are still some
South
more
Bristol?
places where we'd like
Yeah.
to do it. We're talking about like coming in from like Manchester, line 21 perhaps.
It's got someone's
Over in
name.
Paddleford.
Yeah, and maybe another
Morning,
one from
Cory.
the northern
Cody.
section,
Cody.
like potentially New Michigan Road, but those are the
Morning,
ones
Cody.
that we haven't, those are the signs that haven't been ordered yet, which maybe we would do this year. Trying to wait to see how
Nice.
this, we just wanna get them finished.
So
Yeah.
that committee, because in the review process, it's met its mission. So that's gonna be sundown.
They
summer
haven't met in a
probably.
year anyway. I mean, the team, the Gateway Sign team, they were tasked with identifying locations. They identified about 11 of them, and designing the
That's where I got that
sign
number
and
from.
getting it ordered. And that's done. So the team itself hasn't met in like a year. So Jim and I have just been working out the details for getting everything installed. So, so yeah, that team doesn't meet anymore anyway.
Right.
But yeah, officially it will end after this.
So that's the process that's gonna be in place for all of our committees and teams going forward, other than the committees that are mandated by town law, town or state law.
Which is the ones that are not teams, it's the committees, the
Right.
cemetery committee, the ag committee, the parks and rec committee. And then, of course, the town board has their own 4 subcommittees of the town board: finance, ordinance, economic development, and planning and public works.
And so history team, tree team, those teams will kind of have to make a statement. That will not be a grand thing. I did it at the town board meeting before last, and said, describe the work that we're doing as a history team.
I think they're looking for
It wasn't really called into question at all,
twice a year updates too,
Yeah.
so summer
which
and
I
winter.
will just do through my report as
Have they
historian.
told all the committees?
Yes,
They told me.
So,
well, you're in code, so it's not. it
Yeah.
doesn't-
Oh,
it
so
doesn't
We're by
apply to the
law.
Cemetery
Yeah.
committee.
Oh, so I don't have to do that.
I mean, there's probably something in code about occasional
Reporting.
reporting
Yeah.
for the cemetery
it-
committee, but this is just the project teams, and
I
there's
like
only.
to make
yeah,
three
so there's no,
left.
no defending
Oh, I
your
think it needs
existence.
defending, I do. It needs informing, not defending.
But I just wanted you all aware of what had transpired, what it's gonna look like going forward. And again, it's not a draconian process, it's not involved. It's really pretty simple. It's a kind of a human level process. Just tell us that you're not wasting taxpayer money and you're getting something done. I think that's what the town board's looking for. Which was really, really easy to do.
Which has been happening ever since this team's inception anyway. There's always annual reports, there's always, a record of everything that's been done, so actually, it's not a whole lot different
No.
than what's
And
already
the-
been happening.
And our town board is predisposed, all of the members, to things environmental, things historic, they care, and that's what they feel are important. There's emphasis all over that kind of stuff, so. I want to discuss for a minute, and Ray, I don't have I got some notes upstairs, but I'm gonna pick your brain because I don't have my notes with me.
Okay.
So there's a schoolhouse down on Westlake Road that is not identified by a historic marker. It's one of the old district schoolhouses.
It's the only
You mean
one.
the park?
Yeah. So do you
We
recall
own it.
You mean the park?
Yeah.
do you recall the address for it though, for anybody that's driving by?
No,
Okay.
No, we can
Do
get
you?
that.
The one on Butler
we
Road?
got it. It's right.
No, not the Butler, the Westlake Road. You're thinking of Butler Road?
It's on Westlake Road in Butler,
Yeah.
our
Alright.
park, it's
Yeah.
a
Okay.
town park.
All right, maybe that's the one she was talking about.
Who, Lindsay?
I got a request from a resident that we get a New York State historic marker.
Oh, oh.
I thought there.
Is that the only
was
one on Westlake, Ray?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it's
that's the
on
one she was
corner of West
referencing.
Lake
She
and
didn't,
Butler.
she didn't send me
Right.
any,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
she
I
didn't
think
send me
so.
any photograph or an address with it. So that's gotta be the one she was referencing.
Well, I'm sure it is.
I think, but I do think she's right, that there should be a
I
state
thought there
historic
was
marker.
one out by the,
By the
I might
road,
be wrong,
yeah,
out by the
roadside.
front stone. Your
It's on the
corner
roadside.
stone,
I don't recall seeing one there when we did our geocache.
maybe
A number of years
not.
ago.
So do you guys feel like that's something the committee would like to?
It doesn't have one there already.
There apparently there is not. And this resident, I do not know this resident. She lives right in the neighborhood of the schoolhouse. And I don't know if she attended it
Who is,
as a kid. I don't know. I'd have to go up and look at my notes. Like I said, I didn't stop in. I came in down here and stood through my office.
So what's the process of getting a marker?
There is a real simple state process. Ray's done. Did you do it for the Hun? Were you involved in that marker?
no, that was the DAR,
What's that?
the one that they just put in.
Yeah.
The DAR did it all.
Okay.
And then they
So-
gave it to us, and I think our highway or parks guys.
We can
installed
research
it.
that. When I was at Bloomfield, the state was pushing for people to submit. I don't know if they came into a federal grant or what, but they had money they had to give away. I don't know if that's still the case. Yeah, I know. I do the same thing, Richard. You gotta give it away. Yep.
well,
Is that,
it's-
could it be the Pomeroy Foundation, or is that something different?
Oh, yes, that group was involved in the marker that.
There we
was
go.
placed at
All right.
home.
Thank you, Cody, for helping connect the dots. So, if you all are amenable, I think we should take that on as new business just to get that process started and get a marker there. And it may be in, Pat, you live down on Westlake.
I'm right in that area, yeah.
So if that's something of interest to you,
Mhm.
please feel free to dive in. There is no, oh, you're new to the team.
Yeah, you
Oh,
just got,
good.
you just got volunteered.
I would like something to do.
Okay, then please feel free to,
I'll check that out.
yep,
Also, this is a town park, so anything that happens at the park goes
Lindsay?
through Lindsay
Yep.
Prairie.
Lindsay Frary.
so Lindsay and Cody are probably your first stops. Just because you could pick his brain.
What was that, thing?
Pomeroy.
Pomeroy?
Farmore, yeah.
Pomeroy, okay.
They were,
I'll check with Cody.
gosh, I got a note several years ago. They were,
I still.
you're all aware that Lafayette rode through the area in 18 what, Cody?
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I know, see, well, I can claim age, you can't. So,
yeah.
It was like 1820.
I think it was in the 1820s, yeah.
So he rode through the region on a kind of a grand tour to visit his old stomping grounds in the colonies, the former colonies, and to visit his American cousins. Okay, so he came and he stayed with Washington and other notables. He came through Canandaigua, and there's a lot of Lafayette slept here interest. Okay.
Okay.
So there was a gentleman, there is actually a Lafayette Society. The reason I'm saying this is because that foundation, I know they were working with them to try to get markers in the city of Canandaigua to mark places of interest. I want to say Gibson Street, Cody? Was it
That
somewhere
sounds
over, I
familiar,
think it was somewhere
yeah.
over there.
Sounds familiar.
Um,
And it is 24 to 25, 1824 to 1825 is when he was here. Well, in the US.
I'm not too brain dead then.
In the organization, the Lafayette something's planning some sort of
Yes.
anniversary celebration.
Yes, that's what it was, the Lafayette Society.
You're gonna have a lot
Yeah.
of signs that come up and say Lafayette didn't sleep.
Didn't sleep.
People laugh.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to do a Sullivan slept here, but I don't think that would go over. Unfortunately.
He wandered through.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Now, actually, at some point, we need to discuss events, historic events in town of Canandaigua, and maybe we need to discuss this with you too, Cody, and with the city historian. I think there's probably holes in the signage that we could fill, and that might be things like Academy. You know, we have other cemeteries that could have a sign. We have, you know, some historic homes. So maybe this is something that, like, we work on the schoolhouse.
I would tell you one thing,
Sure.
the town board has always been reluctant to put a lot of signs.
Okay, is that because of highway maintenance, Ray, or?
Sign
No,
pollution is what
Yeah.
they used to say, but that was the old town board
Right,
group. So
right.
the newer
So-
group may not, I mean, and historical markers arguably are not what they were talking about. They were talking about like, we don't want to turn into Jefferson Road. Let's not turn.
They were
into-
worried about signage in a big,
Yes.
Big
Yeah.
signage,
Right.
right, yeah, if
No,
you're talking a marker.
markers,
I mean-
they were talking markers.
Well,
all right, they were probably trying to create were they trying to like establish a restriction?
like Ray said, they
and that
just
those would have
weren't
fallen under
fans
it.
of signs along roads all over the
Right.
place.
I'm okay with that. I'm good with that too.
But historic markers are,
Yeah, they're not an eyesore.
right, they're educational,
Right.
Should be.
In moderation.
should be, yes.
I wish
yeah.
they would they'd get away from the yellow-blue scheme. But I mean, that's a big holdover from our license plates. I don't know if you
It's the state
remember, because you were in
colors.
Jersey, but our
That's the
license plates.
state colors.
Yeah.
Can I jump in while we're
Yeah,
talking about
please,
sure.
schoolhouse and historical markers? Lindsay wanted to be here this morning, but she couldn't, she has a conflict. But as some of you know, we have some informational signage at Miller Park that talks about, you know, wildlife you might see, or the history of farming, which this group helped the wording on that sign, and other kinds of interpretive signage. Lindsay is interested in doing something like that at Schoolhouse, not a state historical marker, but an interpretive sign up
At
by
the
the
Butler Road.
actual building at Schoolhouse Park, yes. That tells the history of the building with a couple of pictures. You know, it can be just, you know, dates and important information. It can be architectural information. But they would like to do that at Schoolhouse Park, and she was hoping that this group might have input.
Generate some,
Yeah,
history for
help
her.
with, you know, the wording and suggest what the sign might include and what it might look like, or help gather or identify a couple of pictures for it.
Well, the pictures, it's on a slope. I could take the drone to get up, so it's more straight.
Well,
on.
historical,
Yeah.
not
Sarah,
necessarily a picture of what it looks like now,
Oh,
but.
okay.
did she?
Well, you could do it
I've
better
got-
now.
Yeah.
I've got some pictures.
I know, yeah, and I was thinking about the ones that we have already from when it was rebuilt after
Did she-
it
Right.
burned down.
Did she indicate whether she wanted internal or external
Internal or external what?
signage
Well, placement.
Outside.
outside?
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
inside there were pictures
It'll
and
be-
things
Yeah.
inside.
It'll be just like the signs that
I
are
was
at
gonna-
Miller Park.
Yeah.
You're gonna
All
order
All
the
right, so it'll be
same
ground
thing.
mounted on the,
Yep,
yep,
on a
Yep.
a slant, it'll be
Well,
about this
yep.
big.
which is what we were
So
looking
if
at.
there's-
for-
Don't
if
think
there's
there's
consistency
anything
in the look of the
from
sign
the
from
old
one
one.
place to another,
Okay.
then it's not gonna look
You
so
don't
much.
remember the
So
old-
it's gonna require some long-term
Neither
planning
do I.
Is that,
to figure out
I was wondering
what
about
we
the
wanna do.
kiosk idea you're having for the cemeteries. Could that be something that could be used that people could scan?
yeah, that's the QR code.
Could,
Yeah.
could you do something like that at the schoolhouse? park?
Yes, it's
We can
very
put-
I
easy to
haven't
put
been
it.
through Miller Park yet.
Yeah, because
to
that'd cut
look
down
and see.
the size of the sign and the amount of verbiage that goes on, and it's easily changed if we wanna make edits. I mean, it's like, you know, every time I turn around, Sarah Linda's got another editor.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
So this sign is going to be pretty similar to the ones that are at Miller Park. There will be
Mhm.
a story on it. I mean, you know, the history isn't gonna change, so it wouldn't just be a QR code. It'll be a narrative with a few pictures, but
So-
she's hopeful that you guys would like to help
Right, but
us
the
get
QR code
narrative
could
right.
link us to expanded verbiage.
It sure could,
yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I would say, you know, it both the marker and the signage together would be ideal. The state sign would kind of draws your attention as you're driving by.
Mhm.
We all know it's hard to look deep into a property as you're driving along and see some of those more subtle signs. And we don't want Lindsay's to be some, I mean, I'm sure Lindsay doesn't either, it'd be some kind of,
It's
So-
gonna be up by the building.
yeah.
So like when you park and walk up to the building, you can look at it, and
Right.
read and learn about it.
So if we adopt this and we decide to do the research, and Ray's probably got some of that already.
I do.
I think so.
Yeah, then we could actually, we could have variations on both the sign, the state sign, and expanded with visual support on Lindsay's, let's call it Lindsay's sign, just for the sake of discussion. On
Or an
Lindsay's sign,
interpretive panel, if you'd
Yep.
rather.
Lindsay's interpretive panel, and then lip, the
There you
lip.
go, the lip.
Lindsay's interpretive panel. Then there can be an even more expanded version that the QR code would lead you to.
Mhm.
All right, so
So the interpretive panel, I don't want to say the word standardized, but can they be standardized, like?
through the town, you
the
mean?
Size.
Sizes
I
are-
like
size-
that a lot,
Cemetery
yes.
and the,
Size and material's
Yes.
already been decided.
okay,
We order them from a company.
And it matches Miller
Okay,
pretty
so
closely.
I made the ones at Miller. They're green and blue because whatever, the park, they had initially, the Environmental Conservation Board had initially done some preliminary designs. And, it was green background and because it's parks and, with the blue town logo and then just pictures of whatever it was, birds or flowers or.
Yeah.
So I took that and then we made like 4 more signs. And they're all exactly the same at Miller Park, the same green background, they all have the town logo and then whatever it is. whether
Can you
it's
get us
species
a
or
copy of that?
whatever.
Like just a photograph? Do you have something in
I
your
mean, I can
files?
email you what it looks like, but they're all
No,
different.
no, I mean, but you've probably got one sitting up on your
No.
desk.
I mean, yes, I can email. the
Yeah,
group.
would you?
Yeah.
Because,
For example, but what I was gonna say is, it doesn't have to look exactly the same at Schoolhouse. If we don't want a bright green background, we don't have to, unless Lindsay wants that way, I'm not sure. Because we only have done this at Miller Park, but now we're starting to talk about expanding because people like it.
is there something wrong with your bright green background?
No.
Did
unless
you
don't
like it?
like green.
Did you like it?
I think it looks right for that park.
Okay, so we'll take a look at it and see if it.
Called school,
It's called Westlake Schoolhouse Park,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
people tend to call it Butler Beach because it
Yes.
has a beach
Oh.
on it.
Which is
Yeah.
probably why I got confused with her note to me.
Yeah.
Officially, it's Westlake Schoolhouse Park,
All right.
but we always sometimes in parentheses say AKA Butler Beach.
That's
'cause
what it
That's how
is.
everybody refers to the
Okay.
beach part of the
I've
park.
never heard it called that. I've lived
People
here
will
for
use it.
45
Neither
years.
What do you always hear, Patty?
I've been here all my life.
But-
What do you hear?
Yeah, Butler Beach, I mean,
that's what we
Yeah,
always
okay.
call
but I live, yeah,
So
10
you know it
10
as Butler
driveway.
Beach?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Butler Schoolhouse.
Yep.
Beach.
And that's what everybody
Montessori
always
school.
refers to me as, even Doug. We'll go,
Yeah.
hey, the Butler, I'm gonna
Yeah.
move you out to the Butler Schoolhouse.
Yeah, right.
Which is something he's
Okay,
threatened
so
to do.
it's west.
Yeah, so the official name isn't what people call
Okay.
it. but-
Yeah.
Okay.
So the only reason I was teasing you about the green is if it's a nice look,
I think it,
we
because
should
our
consider it.
Parks Department tends to use green
Right.
to keep parks, it's celebrate the
Right.
parks.
Yeah.
And it's, it's.
Well,
like
if we're
one of our
creating
parks.
it
You know,
for
with the school,
them.
maybe we need to have it yellow, a school bus yellow.
No.
If it's a good
Veto
look,
that.
Well,
No,
bite
no,
your
no,
tongue.
I like what you were suggesting.
What's that,
That it's
standardized?
a standardized look through the
You know
town.
what, it makes me think, because, it's local, I'm not running over there to read it. But when I travel and I see one of these little kiosks
Mhm.
before the little
Yep.
gizmo thing was there, I go, oh, I'll take a picture and read this when I get home.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
mean, I've done that.
Well, and it helps
Oh,
the
I have
visitor.
so many pictures of
Yeah.
panels.
Yeah.
We did that when we took our 2018 trip cross country.
I know.
Every place I don't have time to sit here because
That's
I'm
right,
the
that's
days
right.
when it expires, so I'll just take pictures of them all. bring them
Yeah.
here.
Well, I think it helps a visitor quickly identify a site as, oh, this is,
Yeah.
As
So
part
long
of the
as you
system.
don't
where we
forget
went
where you
against
took
that
them.
standardized
Right.
look was down at Ononda Park. You remember this group
Mm-hmm.
helped the ECB develop the beautiful panels
Yeah.
that are down in the big kiosk
Yeah.
at Ononda Park. They don't look anything like the ones we have at Miller Park, other than the fact that they both have narratives and pictures.
Mhm.
So, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. I think Lindsay would be open to whatever your suggestions
Well, and
are.
ultimately, right, it's gotta be Lindsay's, the design and the look, other than separate from the content, ultimately is gonna be Lindsay's
And the
decision
Parks
anyhow.
Committee
with the
might
town
also
boards.
have some input, but
Yeah.
she really wanted to talk to you guys first because, you know, obviously it's a history story.
So is it the feeling of this team that, yes, we want to do this, we wanna take on the Butler Road, Butler Beach Schoolhouse
Do it.
Westlake
signage?
Schoolhouse.
The
Park.
Westlake Road
Schoolhouse Park.
Schoolhouse Park.
I'll never remember that.
I don't either.
Yeah,
I like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right,
Figure
and
it
Patty,
out.
you're gonna jump on the state sign,
I will look into it.
and
And I'm
Ray
gonna
will
ask
help provide you whatever
some history.
support you can give, right?
Signage.
As far as historic research and,
I think I got a whole bunch of them on my
We can always
book.
check with
Okay.
your.
Yeah.
Cody, you have
your
thoughts on-
senator,
on
who used to
signs
be a
and
supervisor here, you know.
stuff
No,
of that.
I think it's a worthwhile endeavor, and I think size wise, it'd be great to have them all the same. But I think that color schemes can change.
Yes.
Okay.
I think as long, yeah, I mean, we already have the company we work with for the signs that we purchased for Miller Park, and that's what Lindsay is intending to use. But so they will look kind of cohesive, even if we change, you know, the background color, and the layout can be, you know, similar. I mean, it likely will anyway.
And it's identified as a town sign anyhow, right?
It will have our logo on it for sure, the same one we put on the other ones, and something to link to the website, which we did on the most recent versions of the one at Miller Park. They all have QR codes on them too.
All right, and so, and that can bring us back, now we circle back to the kiosks for cemeteries. And that should also include, obviously, the town logo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we can, working with Lindsay, we can see what we want to do design wise to kind of create some,
'Cause you
tie-ins.
you could go the kiosk route, you know, like a vertical with a little tiny roof and a big one panel, or you could end up using the similar idea that we do at the parks
Right.
for the cemetery kiosks too. I mean, you could go either way. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people do go in and out of Butler Road, I know.
Yeah.
There's new people there all the time. There's VRBOs up in that neighborhood, so
Yeah.
there's people from out of town, out of state maybe, I don't know, that'll be there because they use that beach.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be nice to have something.
What if, because we're talking about cemeteries and, I mean, in this case, historic building, right? Maybe there's like another historic location or type something. Even on these interpretive signs, having them labeled like historic cemetery, historic building of.
Creating a category.
Right. And that way, I mean, further down the road, it could be almost like the town could put together like a driving tour of, you know,
Yes.
check out the cemeteries, check out the historic buildings, and putting some sort of programming together like that.
I think that's a great idea.
We even got
This group has talked about that before.
we
Yeah,
even
we're
got
talking about
a
driving tour.
trail.
Yes, right, and that would really be beneficial to helping the trail
Mhm.
concept. Cody, if you have stuff that occurs to you regarding the town and action that you think we might want to take with signage and stuff, please don't hesitate to let us know that
Okay.
here's something that you found fascinating, you think we should highlight.
Okay. No, I just think this idea is getting me excited, right? Because it's a way to get the history out to people on their own time and to make it look nice as well. Make it a little bit more cohesive. So I like it. I am kind of curious. We're talking about the Butler School, and is like we're going to work on that, and then if we find another building or site or whatever it may be, we'll like add that to it, or
That's what I'm thinking.
Would
That's
this
what I'm
be
thinking, yeah.
okay? All right. We'll just
at
get
least
to it
we go
as they.
forward with that idea that this isn't a one-off, this is something we may want to expand on.
Well,
Okay,
Doing it with some of the buildings around the park too, you know?
Yeah.
or the trail.
Right, yes, and that will bring us back to the trail and going, so what on the trail do we want to,
Yeah.
put some signage on, highlight?
When you say trail, what are you referring to?
How do you describe it?
So it was a driving / bicycle, trail that Sarah,
Walking.
Linda and
Walking.
Ray,
Oh, the driving tour along
Yeah.
West Lake Road.
Yeah.
No.
that we-
oh, did you have another one?
Oh, did
For
you?
the whole town.
The one that goes along the railroad track.
Oh, that trail, the
Pathways?
trail
Oh, the peanut
systems.
line trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were talking about the driving tour too. You're talking about the Ontario Pathways.
No, peanut line trail.
Peanut line.
Peanut line.
The
Yeah.
town owns the
That's-
little short section of the old
Oh, I
peanut
didn't realize we
line.
had that.
We own just one piece of it and it's one of our parks and
Yep.
it's a short section of trail. We maintain it in the
Okay.
summer, you know, we whack it and
Goes
stuff
from
like that.
County Road
30
30
to Cooley or
to
something?
Cooley Road.
Yeah.
Does that have any, and pardon my ignorance to like how that works with other trail systems, has that been identified as a part of the Finger Lakes Trail system or?
No,
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 It's
no
really
connection, we haven't
short
connected it
section.
at all.
We
No.
couldn't go farther than that. That's the only one we could get access
So,
to.
and it's,
yeah,
and so that it dead ends on private properties
Yes.
Yeah.
Or public roads.
or a public road, yeah. So I think, going back, I think that, yes, we could do a sign there that would
I
obviously,
think there is. a
right,
sign
and tell a
there.
little
Yeah,
story of the,
There is a sign there, yeah.
right, but you're thinking of one that would have some information about the peanut line.
Right,
So I think that's definitely, that could be on the list. But I think that we should also, now going back to the driving tour, Richard, we should think about, are there state signs that we might want to see on that? Most of that is, well, some of it's public property and some of it's private property. We should probably examine all the properties on that driving tour that you and Sarah Linda had identified and see if there's signage that we could correct to make that driving tour better too.
I
Well-
wouldn't put any signage up on any private property that.
No, you can't do it on the private property, but have we got all the
Well,
public
I
properties?
wouldn't even put it on the public, public right of way unless the person that reference is agreeable to having it out there.
No, but we've got like the
Because of privacy.
waterworks.
Cause we
You
started
know.
I did a lot of editing on that too,
Yeah.
because she was working hopefully with someone at CCFL, and then that kind of just fell through.
Would you,
So.
I mean, like you've already got like all the work you're doing on Academy, but could you just run your eyeballs over that and maybe for the next meeting, we can discuss that a little bit more. You can shoot me what you've got.
Yeah,
I'll
Yeah.
look at
yeah.
Would
I'm
you?
Sure, yeah.
the,
And then we can
And
quickly
because-
eliminate,
because
we can
with-
say, no, we don't want to do that, or wait a minute,
See,
there are a couple things we want to.
It was a challenge because on Westlake Road, if you're driving along, it's a narrow road. There's very few, if any, shoulders on a lot of it.
A lot of bike rides.
And a lot of bikers, and
Pedestrians, yeah.
it just, I don't know, we just kind of dropped it
And I
because it
think-
didn't seem feasible.
We were talking about QR codes for a lot of
And
that
we
too.
were also,
Yeah.
I remember
what's
the
a QR
conversation,
code?
there was
On your
concern
phone.
over, because
you
it's
can-
narrow
on
like
your
that, it
phone.
would probably end up
And
meaning
you can
people would be pulling
scan
off
it,
into people's
get
driveways.
information
Yeah.
We didn't want to
Site.
encourage that, and
Yeah.
so I think that's
It's a
part of
new
the reason
thing.
it just kind of
Okay.
said, well, let's
Apparently-
revisit this in the future if
Yeah.
possible, but we didn't
Yeah.
really see how that was gonna work
Yeah,
very
it was
well.
just, we just felt it was
Alright.
kind of dangerous.
So you do, is,
Because Naples, she was kind of patterning it after one that Naples did, and
Yes.
someone that did one at
Mhm.
Naples. But Naples is more walking in a
Right.
lot of the sections of it, I
Right.
think, because I went out
Stroll
on
the
to
town.
look at it,
Yes.
yeah.
Sure.
I mean, they had things outside, if I recall, too, but there was a,
is there any
Sidewalks
benefit to
down there.
reviewing
Right,
yeah,
and seeing if there are any And this could be a simple no. Is there any value in reviewing it on a property by property basis,
No.
not as a driving tour, but as something that needs to be identified?
No, at this time I wouldn't.
Yeah, you
We
put
got-
it at the
we got
bottom of
other
your
things to
list.
do.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
So you don't feel there's
historical-
anything there that stands
Yeah.
out
The
that
historical
isn't marked?
survey is gonna be identifying anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
And
and then we
then-
gotta work on around the basis
True.
of what that comes up
Yeah.
with.
Put it
Yeah,
in the
because
park.
there was like the waterworks
Right.
and there's a building that sits way back that was a farm and, I'll send you the information so
Okay.
you can take a look at it.
So I'll throw one at you guys. Please
You've been
do,
throwing a
Donna,
lot
I
of
would like to look.
this.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
You noticed that?
I'm not catching it.
No, this is a historian thing that I can do, but I don't want to just move ahead on it. So Academy has two foci, all right? And one is on 21 where the brand store was, okay? Right, and we mark on our maps as Academy. The other,
The town of, or the village of Academy.
the hamlet of Academy.
Hamlet.
So that's where most people in our region would identify it. But that's not really accurate because there was a second academy.
Mm-hmm. The main, well, Academy was from the town of Bristol to the town of South Bristol to the lake.
Sure,
Yep.
I need a map.
And
was a
the
huge
center of it-
tract.
and the center of it was really where Academy Cemetery is now.
And that's what I was just,
Farther north,
and that's what I was just gonna say though,
The
is
cemetery, but the other side of the street.
yeah.
the Academy Cemetery, the schoolhouse, the church, and the Housel family farm were sort of the other little central node of Academy. That's known more by longtime residents than by people like myself and yourself who've come more recently, and we drive down through, 21, and you go, oh, that's Academy. Nope. There was, and
So what do you
even in my
wanna do?
research, we've
What do
identified,
you
I mean,
wanna do?
we need to
Yeah, cut to the chase.
draw some attention to the hamlet. Okay, so that it's interpreted for folks that are visiting as this was part of the hamlet of Academy.
Is there a write-up about it in the context statement?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm talking about something that's a sign or a
At the
a
cemetery?
kiosk or, it could be at,
Like a
yeah, I
here-
think it
here
could very
We
well
don't own
be.
anything else, so that
What's
would
that?
be- we don't own anything else.
Nope,
It
but
would
we
have to
own,
be at
but
the
we have
cemetery.
the cemetery. So
Just
it could
make
be
sure
at the
that's
front gate of the
clear.
cemetery as separate from the kiosk, which we had thought of as
So
down
kind of
on
like
the.
here once existed the hamlet of Academy.
Yes, and if you turn around, you will see where the church and the schoolhouse is now a
Yeah,
private
to the
residence.
east, to the west, and north, to the
Yeah.
south.
Yeah.
And there's great signs.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys like that idea, but I think it's something that,
It's like, it's down in there.
Yeah.
I think it's something we should
Behind that
consider.
keyboard.
It's a very historic little
Well,
area.
it's big.
What do you think, Ray? Like, as far as identifying, telling a little history of Academy and letting people know that, hey, there's more than just this cemetery. There was a schoolhouse behind you and a
You
church.
got.
Well, maybe that's a,
Would
like
you do
a,
both sections? Cause you said it was a split section, or was it
It's
all?
huge.
Okay,
3,000 acres?
Yeah, 3,000 acres. Goes from the town of Bristol, town of South Bristol, the lake, and the north end goes about 3,000.
So if you turn around and look at that map,
well,
Donna,
I'm
that's right
looking down
behind you.
there where the,
Yeah. the one
We
that-
are
cemetery
essentially
map
a
is.
double township. Okay?
huh?
Hmm?
When you look at area, the area that is Canandaigua and the area that is the other towns within the Phelps and Quorum Purchase.
Way down here.
Canandaigua was deliberately made much larger than its neighbors.
It was made by Phelps and Gorham
Yep.
Yeah,
to
Fund,
to use the funding
Yep.
for support of the
Municipal
academy.
Academy School.
Yeah.
so
Canandaigua Academy.
So if you think back on what Nathaniel Gorham was thinking, he was thinking
About this.
we needed an academy, and he was not going to fund it with all the best parts of Canandaigua. So what he did is he almost doubled the size of the township, taking the ground that he thought was,
Turned out
a
to
little
be
sketchy,
Yeah.
and using that to fund the school. What he didn't realize was that the southern half of the town, the doubling piece, was actually going to turn out to be better agricultural ground than some of the northern.
That's not
Because the
true.
best wheat, what's that?
That's
No.
not true.
What's not true?
See
That's
that
not-
farmland
Yeah,
map
that's
right
not
there?
true.
The
Mhm.
best soils and the most productive farms are in the northern section of the
But
town.
historically, I have to
What
argue
he
that.
thought.
Historically, it was believed that all of that stony ground to the south was going to be unfit and at best pasturage. It turned out that it produced some of the largest crops of wheat within the town of Canandaigua in the 19th century. Yes.
Okay.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. Now it's the most valuable because it's used for vineyards. And
We
you
only
can't-
have like
Right, but
tiny
historically,
acreage of vineyards.
historically.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
you can still see all the,
If you're talking about today, you have to look at it completely differently. If you're talking about it historically,
There must have
you're
been.
not looking at the same farmland, you're not looking at the same drainage, you're not looking at the same crops being planted.
I don't agree.
The Housels actually pulled off one of the largest wheat crops in the town of Canandaigua
Well, what about hops?
in the 19th century. Literally within
yeah, there
10
used to
years.
be hop farms.
That's
No.
before the virus came.
Yeah, you
Right, it's right in our county history.
21.
Well, it's wrong.
Okay. So we
So
got this,
where are we going? Oh, you wanted some
Yeah.
signage on Academy.
Yeah, where
I-
was this all going? Yes.
it's a double township.
Well, you know what I'd like to
Hey.
see, or here's a thought.
people
If
aren't
the
aware of that.
historian did a point of interest kind of article on Academy, does
I've already
anybody
done
know where
that.
the village? Oh, you have? Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I got
guess
it.
I didn't read it.
Ray's done it,
It's
I've
very-
done
I
it.
have done it too. Oh,
Yeah,
You
no,
can put
it-
that on the website, or
Yeah.
do we already have that on
we
there?
already have it on the
Okay.
website. for
I'll
sure.
have to go read it, I guess.
That's,
I'm new here.
nobody reads the paper anymore, okay?
Oh, no, I know they don't. I don't
And
either.
that's right, nobody reads, that's just a bottom line reality. The Daily Messenger is gonna
I
go out
read
of
the
business
town
very
newsletter
shortly.
though.
What's
It's
that?
a town newsletter.
That's because you run the town board.
I don't run anything anymore. I just live here.
I don't know, there's no way of telling who reads our town newsletter, guys, but
No, we
it's not
can't
exactly.
see who reads it or how
No.
many actually read it, but we can see how many people at least click it, and it's in the thousands. But you know, out of a population of 11,000, if we get 2,500 hits, we're excited. But we don't actually know if that's
Every way
something.
recording when they pick it up,
Right.
when they actually open their emails.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay.
How many people see it, click on it?
Yeah.
Well, open emails and then click too. I can see both.
Okay.
So 40% of the 1,800 people I email it to actually open their email. What, I don't
But
know
you're
if
a
they
nerd.
read it, right? There's no way for me to see if they read it. And then on Facebook, it usually gets another maybe 2,000 views. Some of those people are the same people, I'm
So-
sure.
Not
But
me.
we
When-
don't know if they actually read it.
When I signed up to be the town historian, I said, you guys probably don't remember this at all, but you gotta identify the audiences, right? And once you've identified the audiences, find the vehicle that reaches them. And I'm a bit of a dinosaur in that I like newspapers and I've written for newspapers, but newspapers, if I'm really honest, the Finger Lakes Times is the most effective one in our region.
I agree.
But it still tends to be generational. There's a whole bunch of people younger than us that rarely, if ever, look at a newspaper.
They try to ask you what newspaper. it is.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's
I'm
not
sorry,
that
what?
bad.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
What'd you say,
I
Sarah?
said it's not that bad.
Well, and you're probably pretty good. I mean, you probably actually go look at like e-versions.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
So,
No, I do not buy the paper, because there's
Right.
not enough in it to warrant buying the paper.
exactly.
but you can't start a fire with an e-version.
Yeah.
We use the free ones they send to start the fires.
So, which is what I do. Yeah. So, when if we're going to continue to be effective as a history team, we've got to, and we've done good. And I'm just reinforcing that signs and markers are probably at least as effective, if not more effective, than newspaper articles and magazine articles, and they are far more durable and have a much greater shelf life. So just as we think about it, I think for this year, we really need to consider where are places that we would like to see identified. And not just me, not just Cody, but we all are curious and we all find things fascinating, and that is often the best place to start.
You know,
Because-
as far as longevity, we have a website. And if we could promote the website more than what we're doing now,
Right, and you could push that on signs too, by the way.
and that's the
Oh,
whole
right, have
thing, I
that,
mean,
yeah.
that'll, where a newspaper will be used for a birdcage, what's on the website will always be there.
Mhm.
And people can always go out to find it. And if we link one thing to another thing on the website, people can get drawn into
Mhm.
the whole history a lot more than they would if they had a printed piece that they'd have to shuffle through.
I have,
agree.
I mean, you're doing a great job on the website, and it'd be great to be able to expand and get people to really understand that
Yes.
this resource is
right,
there.
and it makes
Well,
all
we're
the work that
always trying
Sarah's
to make it
done more
easier to
valuable.
navigate, cause it's a heavy website, there's
Yeah.
almost 300 pages on it, and
Yeah.
people say, yes, there's a lot of information on it, but we do often hear people say, well, I don't know where anything is, there's just too many pages. So every now and then we try and reorganize it or take a look at how it's organized to improve it, to make it easier to find things. And the search really is pretty good, maybe 85% effective. Some things I know are on the website. If I search in the search bar, it just doesn't show up, but we're not
Keywords.
really sure why, but some of it works great, so.
I have to be,
But yes, it's a good place to put things that will always be there.
Because
Maybe the
one of-
town needs a website team then to kind of look at the website.
Oh,
She's the team.
There are several of us who work
Yeah.
on it, but,
Yeah.
let me share something that, because I like the work that they're doing, and Kate does it too, she does some maintenance stuff, right?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, some people do their own thing, like Kate takes care of the cemetery page, and some of the other groups take care of their stuff, and then I kind of take care of the overall stuff.
I think, we need to support staff the way staff supports us, and I like what Richard was saying, like using the signs to also drive the website. With the QR codes. My biggest problem with history, and I really have a problem with history, this is the choir. Our generations are the choir. Where we're losing the battle and where we should be most concerned is with people under 40. And there are a lot of people at work here that are not good examples, okay? But we all know that this is a problem, that American history is kind of, despite the fact that it's so present in popular entertainment and stuff, somehow we're losing it. Somehow it's trickling away.
Erasing.
Our concern is Canandaigua. Cody's is the county, but we don't so much have a problem preserving. Like Ray did a great job when he was historian, preserving. It's easy for us to all follow along the path that he and other historians started and go, well, we're just going to continue to preserve. Where I come to my problem is preserving doesn't mean Billy be damned, okay? The library at Alexandria is dust. It was the greatest collection of human history and knowledge. Cody has, so much county history in his walls. His biggest problem, I think he would probably identify as being getting people in there and engaging them.
Mhm.
And as a town history team and a town historian, we have the same obligation. The obligation to just collect, store, and preserve, I think is very outdated. If that's where we're going. If we're just gonna say, we're just gonna like prop stuff up and write it down and take a picture, there's not gonna be anybody behind us to appreciate the work we did or to add that to their knowledge.
Does anybody have any experience?
Wrongly agree.
Any experience in what?
Marketing, because that's really what,
Well,
Yeah. How do we excite the public to
Yes,
go
exactly.
look
I
at
did
stuff?
work in marketing, okay?
And I remember when I was in school, I had US history as a senior in school, and I hated the course because it's all dates.
Mhm.
As soon as I read Rabble in Arms, you know,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, this is getting really interesting,
Mhm.
you know, so it's.
I think though, Richard, like this group, and I'm sure Cody's board and his staff, we're all more savvy to marketing. Though I worked in that field, I gotta say, it's like right now in 2023, the general public is even pretty savvy to marketing. The internet has changed all of us so immensely. We know when we're being marketed to. We know how to do it ourselves. So many small businesses have websites, you know, people understand. I think what we're doing is right. I think we just need to redouble and constantly have that thought in our mind. How are we sharing? Who are we going to share with? Who do we want to share? And how do we get them there? And if that's always behind everything we do, then we're on the right track. You know, there might be missteps, but we're headed in the right direction. I just really want to emphasize that it's got to be about getting it out there. And I do think right now for us, science is a good way.
I think it's partially marketing. I think it's also partially how we approach the study of history, the topic of history, right? History is driven by stories, simply because it's a way to relate to the past. And that means it usually means that you have to do a lot more work. It's not just this building was built here, it was built in this way, whatever, and it served this purpose. No, you have to dig deeper and figure out, okay, this person built this house and they had this family and they owned this automobile shop in town or whatever. You have to provide those things for people to connect to. So I think that a lot of the people who are having, or museums or whatever, that are having issues with getting people to come into their doors, they're not taking that extra step to find those stories that people, even my age or younger, can relate to.
Yeah.
And I will say that also means that we need to be attuned to what younger people care about and how that can be seen in the past.
Yeah.
And that's where history becomes uncomfortable, right? But that's our job.
So
Sometimes our
context,
job is to make people uncomfortable.
context and relevance.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do every time I write an article, is not just tell some dusty old story, but somehow, and it is driving, like the article that I'm writing right now, which quite frankly is probably not going to contain any specific of Canandaigua town history. It's actually going to speak to just what Cody was talking about, the philosophy of history. And I am 1,000% behind him in the way and the reasons for which we are losing young audiences, because you can't just keep selling the same old package. I'm not going to belabor it anymore. I belabored it.
Well, if anybody's familiar with the House of Seven Gables in Salem, Mass, the House of Seven Gables is just a House of Seven Gables.
Yeah.
Unless you know.
Tell Hawthorne, yeah.
Until you know what happened in that house. There's a wood pile, that you take the wood pile out, there's a staircase that goes up to the
Staircase
second
that goes
floor
up, I've been there.
behind the fireplace. I mean,
Awesome.
the interest that you can generate of the little stuff behind it all,
Yeah.
that's what makes the whole house interesting. I mean, that's what
Mhm.
makes people want to go there and see this
Yep.
themselves, these places
Yep.
where the slaves were hidden out,
Right.
you know.
And that's why I've always felt, and I know you two do, I know you do, you're
think
new to
I
the
do.
committee, but I think you probably do, Patty. I mean,
I
we
think
all love the cemeteries here in town because we don't have a
What
House
about
of Seven
people
Gables.
Who lived here?
Yeah,
Right.
And,
Yep,
you know,
amazing
to your
stories.
point, About, US history in
Mhm.
school. I mean, I had US history in 11th grade. I don't remember anything. I wasn't
I
interested
don't
in dates. I just didn't care. But yeah, if it had been a story about someone,
And-
I might have paid more attention. And Cody, I agree with you completely. In my generation, I mean, there are some history buffs and people who like to learn about wars, but I'm not one of them. And I'd rather learn about a history of a family who lived in Canandaigua, and this is what the kids did when they were, the same age I was when, giving a way for you to connect with someone from 100 years ago.
Well,
It's,
Cody, do any of the, does the Canandaigua City School, do they
I
have
was just gonna ask that.
local history in a certain grade where they might come to the museum and you or somebody talk to them about a family or?
So I mean, yeah, like fourth grade is really great for the local schools. As far as them coming into the museum, that was actually one of the problems that I came onto, right? It was like schools are no longer able to take field trips and the such. And I mean, we're currently working on programs that we will take to the schools.
We used
Okay.
to have here in Canandaigua, okay, so fourth and seventh were the intersect years.
Oh,
And
okay.
I used to do a seventh grade program up in Williamson, and I did it at a few other schools, colonial history. And then there was a fourth grade one that we used to do here in Canandaigua. And my wife and I were one of the stations. And again, it was pre-colonial, colonial American history. We did it as a living history thing. So I was literally set up out on the elementary school lawn in full 18th century kit, as we said. And that was always good because it was younger kids love visual. They're very tactile, very visual.
Not just young
You wanted
kids.
an Anne with an E story is what you wanted.
I'm just reiterating, it is hard to get some people interested in reading an article, just about historical facts. It doesn't interest everybody.
Oh, it's boring. I used to get the kid that was
Not
dad owned a
boring.
farm, and he'd be like, I hate history. I just want to get out of here. And I'd say, wait a minute, so you're not interested in the history of tractors? Well, yeah, of course I like that. Oh, and then you like history. You just don't like what somebody's teaching you. And that's what Cody's talking about, is finding that way to connect.
So do you do a program
Probably
with the
not for high
school then,
school.
or I didn't?
Not currently. So Ben, our director of education, has actually been going in the last couple of weeks to the schools in the area and presenting. It's a history mystery traveling trunk. And we're taking reproduced documents and artifacts from our collection, and they will interact with this box. It's basically like a game. And instead of the teacher using our artifacts or our documents as an additional thing to whatever they're teaching, this actually becomes the class itself, right? The teacher obviously walks them through it, but they learn about things like the Canandaigua Treaty or I don't know, like the Depression in the Finger Lakes or things like that, just by looking at the things that we have in our collections. And that on many levels gets them to just talk about history, to think about history, but also to understand what museums are for, right? The fact that we keep these documents, the real ones are here. And then it gets them to critically think, if this person said that, but they did this, what's missing here? So that's the program that Ben is working on right now. And we're hoping that in September or in the fall, those programs will actually be in the schools in this area.
It's a good idea.
That's good.
So let me amplify, because I dealt with this when I was director at Bloomfield and when I was subbing. I think Cody's going to have great success, but I think it's going to be because he's Cody, all right? And I mean that in all honesty. It's very hit and miss. I created a program for Bloomfield just before I left that museum. There was it was kind of a fake archaeology project, and it was set out on County Road 30, just inside the Bloomfield line, where we have one of the earliest settlements, okay, in Canandaigua and Bloomfield. So I had to interface with the IB coordinator for Bloomfield. That's International Baccalaureate. Canandaigua has an IB program. Bloomfield has one. Not all school districts do. Trying to engage the teachers is the hardest part that any historic agency has, because the state of New York has already inundated them with so much, and I'm going to be honest here, crap, okay, that they have to do. And it's not just curriculum crap. And being a teacher is not at all like it was when we were in school, not one iota. They're social workers now too. So Cody goes to him and he says, I got this great thing and I will help you with it. And you have to do a hell of a sales job to that teacher, to that district, to get them to actually say yes and actually pull the trigger on it. I put display cases in the school and built exhibits in their library, because if I said I'll do it, they would do it, right? But if I put it on them to do it, it wasn't going to happen. They're already out of time and out of money. So like for our history team, our signs and stuff, the more engaging, visually engaging those images can be, the better. And when an image has a person in it, an image automatically becomes more engaging than an image without a person. So it's just a kind of, I know we kind of went off on a big philosophical discussion, but I feel that it's imperative that it is ever present in our discussions, or we fail.
So if you have a background graphic on a historical sign where the background graphic is like a tint and depicts the styles of dress at the time that the information is writing about, that would provide you with that link and to that. You just want to, because it's not going to detract from it. Not going to be a focal point, but it'll be a supporting element for the text.
I've been on a couple of different boards. I've worked for a couple of different museums, and I feel very safe in saying thank you for joining, Patty and Karen, because this team actually probably has more talent and works better as a team than a lot of boards that I've served on and organizations that I've worked for.
It's the pay.
I know.
The benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a raise this year.
Well, I really have seen, like, you guys have done some amazing things. He's done amazing things.
Amazing.
I know we're up to the job. Okay. And when you talk about graphic design, Richard,
Yeah.
you and Sarah, like, I have absolutely no doubt that we don't need to go outside of the house to get really great work done. Other places are not so fortunate. We are very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have OCHS physically proximal to us. And Cody, I know you have, and I appreciate that what you're doing with OCHS. In the past, obviously, they were in many ways, he's taking it to another level. You know, he's really up in the game because of everything we've been talking about. And Cody and I have not had any conversations about this. So if you think I'm like singing his praise, I am, because I think we're very fortunate. So we're now an hour and a half in, and I want to.
Where do we go from here?
Well, I think we work on verbiage for a New York State sign and images and verbiage for a sign for Lindsay. I will meet with Lindsay about color and design, and just to get her ideas of what she's thinking. Okay. You were going to send me information. Yep.
Wesley.
Ray is going to support Patty with her research for Butler Road,
Butler
Butler
Road.
Beach,
The right schoolhouse.
Butler Road, Butler Beach.
Schoolhouse.
And
Schoolhouse
But also
rocks.
maybe photographs to you for potentially putting a sign
For
together
the butler.
Yep.
for the
Yep.
Butler.
yes,
Big thing, yeah, not the historical
When
marker.
the
Yep.
leaves come on the trees, like a one with the camera.
say that again.
When the leaves are on the trees,
Got it. Yeah, right. When it's pretty.
Because
Um,
it's nice to see a now and then,
Right.
Yes.
you know, for
Right.
photographs.
if they had, in
for
fact, if we,
visuals.
does the town have any architectural renderings of these different buildings from the time way back when?
I have no
Yeah.
idea.
I don't have anything other
You
than,
must, yeah.
So if I take a photograph that matches up to the same viewpoint as the
Oh,
rendering, then
yeah.
it's a direct
No.
Oh,
comparison.
that'd be nice.
You won't recognize it.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
all right, if
That's
it's from the
okay.
same angle, it can change it.
But is there a whole lot of
Not in the
benefit
same
to
spot.
taking up space on the sign with a picture of the building as it is right now when they're gonna be standing
That
and
could
looking
be
at it
into
right
the
now?
level of.
No.
the
It could just be
website
a
or the-
smaller one, like a little.
kiosk.
Well, no,
inset.
no, I understand Sarah's point. It's a
I
very
mean, I
valid-
love your
No,
pictures,
it's a very valid point, though.
but I'm not sure we wanna take up
If-
space
Because they're
on the
standing
sign
right
current
there.
one.
with a
Yeah.
current
If you're
picture.
I agree with
thinking about Westlake Road.
Yeah.
There actually were two at the same time. They built one initially down on the flats.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Go to
and
school.
that was
Good stuff
being
happens.
built. They built the new
They
one
got all
Up on
this.
the-
up on the
The rise.
right.
Yeah.
And they didn't tear the one down because they were teaching.
Yeah.
And until they got the,
No, the
It
new
doesn't
one
seem
done.
like there's that much flat area though. Are you
oh
talking
yeah,
closer to Westlake
They
Road?
must
Yeah.
have had to put the road through there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was Westlake Road was it a dirt
It was
road or
dirt. It
what
was
was
dirt.
it? Oh, it was
It was
a
a
dirt road.
path.
Okay, so it wasn't as wide as it
That's
is
where the-
Right.
No,
now, not that
right.
it's super wide,
The
but.
back picture
There was a
Oh.
path.
It's not- if you had
all right, so I want to wrap up quick.
Stop partway and
with-
you wouldn't-
You had to
It
go
doesn't
around.
detract
Two
from
other
the
pieces
bird.
of information. John Robert, for you guys, John Robertello will be joining us later in the spring. He is very eager to be a part of this, and that's a great thing. And Cody, you know John, so we can all go, yay!
I know John
Yep.
very well.
But before, I would just like to interject a little bit in trying to get some of the teenagers involved from high school. I know that they put together their own clubs, like after-school clubs. If we could pick the brains of some of the history teachers there, who are your students that are interested in this stuff, get a hold of them to maybe do a
Draw them
club
into us.
there, and we can let them know what we're doing and, you know,
Jared might be able to help us
getting
with that.
them to participate now
I
to
will tell you,
replace us someday.
I have subbed. It is
And that's a
it is
very good
finding
point.
that one perfect teacher, because they're not all equal.
They're not
Like,
all-
I've
that's
worked
true.
at both buildings, well, all three buildings
Yeah,
actually.
clubs usually need a teacher who volunteers to sponsor it.
Yeah.
They do,
Yeah.
yes.
And Jared might be able to help us. I will ask him to which of his
Super.
peers at the high school he would suggest.
Mhm.
Um,
Because they would know
He's
the
our man for
students
the
that
middle
are
school, by the
really, you know, interested in it. I worked there for 25 years, but at the elementary levels, but even then, there were children that were drawn to that topic.
That's the best
And
building to be in.
It is.
And then the middle school.
Middle school was good too, but, so
I
that
like,
might be
I
an
actually like
idea.
middle school. Middle school's not bad. If you just gotta like the hormones. Okay, you
Well, I
gotta
already knew
go. I
them
can deal
from-
with this.
I knew them from when they were third, fourth, fifth grade, so teenagers weren't too bad.
They lose their minds in
So-
middle school.
You're right.
Well,
But-
before the three of you joined our team and Cody, Jared got some of his students to interview
Yeah.
some of the older residents.
Oh,
So
good.
we have
Yes.
the videos and audio of
Mhm.
some of those interviews.
Yep, those are
I
good
think my
projects.
daughter
And
was
it
part
might
of a
be-
project and did that.
What?
My daughter was part of a project and
Because
she interviewed Doc Blake.
we might want
They
to consider
came.
that
Yeah.
again too.
Yeah.
What we really need to do is
Okay.
suck in somebody from the district
Yeah.
into this team who's here specifically to be an interface.
Mhm.
But when we meet during the day, they can't join
Well,
us.
Right.
you
Jared,
had a
Right.
although
teacher.
he's part of the team,
Yeah.
Jared's never,
But
ever
you-
been.
No,
to a
because,
meeting.
right, because he's either there or in a,
Exactly,
other
because
Jared's
he's got other
Yeah, that's-
responsibilities.
There was another teacher who was
So-
interested too, but.
Yeah, Tony Oliver
Didn't
Senior.
have
Eric?
time.
Yeah.
And we changed our meetings for the evening to accommodate her, but then she only came to a
How
couple
about a
meetings.
retired one? I mean, they're
well,
retired.
we had Eric Obermeyer briefly, but he's
Okay.
hitting on several different committees.
Yeah,
Trying
He's
to,
on the ECB and the conservation.
Well, you
ECB.
which
have
is where
to-
his,
It's hard to get
part
new
is.
blood, you know how that
I
is.
know,
yeah.
Young blood,
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
you just
Oh,
find
wow.
the person and ask.
all right, well, we'll all keep
Ask
our ears open
questions.
for that. And I think we're on a good track with the signage. Sarah Linda will, and Sarah will keep us up to date on the recon survey. There's nothing massively new to report on that. Obviously, Holly Glore has the information. Sarah
Coming
Linda's
to a
in touch
close
with
soon.
her, Sarah's in touch with her, so.
Yeah.
We
And I
just need
wanna-
them to bang out their work.
I just wanna show everybody the row signs, because Rich and I put
Oh.
up 2 of the row signs. So I'll show Cody.
Oh.
Did you get the brochure that I brought over?
Can you see?
I did, and thank you for that.
Where-
You can't see this. So this is.
Oh, there's the
Technically-
camera.
Can you see that?
Yep, I see it.
Okay,
That looks nice.
so we only did 2. I'll pass it around. We only did 2 signs because it was rather cold.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
No.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
We'll
We'll
do
go
other
back on camera.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
But our goal is to get them all done before you guys put the flags out for
You're the
Memorial
one who's
Day.
gonna love that the most.
I like it.
That way-
Guys,
That way
I
you
like
have
the
the
white
map.
on
Do
brown.
you, do you help with that?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
They're
we
not
do all the,
shocking.
Well,
Yeah.
remember the list that I gave
Hey,
you
Richard,
last meeting?
I like the white on brown.
Veterans.
I do like.
That'll help.
Which is all
This year.
so often used in other places for historic
Well-
signage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You've probably
oh
seen
That
that.
was the
Well,
idea.
who
I didn't
got
want
Looks
it-
I figured it was.
I
I
didn't
have
want
nothing.
the bright colors. I
No.
didn't want it to be garish. I wanted
No.
it to sort of blend.
And those of us who visit a lot of historic sites, we kind of automatically, when we see a brown and white sign, we go,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute, I gotta go look at that.
Oh, yes.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted
this,
to,
this is
before
what
you
I
wrap up.
use.
Oh, I have a lot of information to update you on that.
No,
The Congregational
Yeah, I
Church
do.
this Sunday
coming,
is
by the way.
having a restoration
And
celebration.
corrected.
Because I just did a
corrected
lot of
information
work
too.
recently.
I was
Okay.
a
March 12th.
trustee
You
and it
you
was
would
murder.
leave, I
Let me
think
tell
that
you.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the
So
Congregational
this is-
Church
this
is-
in
this is
town
good.
is
Right.
celebrating
Oh,
their,
yeah.
the
Okay.
completion of their
And
renovation and
this is the one you use,
preservation.
because
So
that's the
we've
road
done
and
all the
stone number.
replacement windows on the
But
south
we've gotta take
side.
somebody off of here because Pierce is not.
There's a grant for the
Pierce is not
next
a
one, but you
veteran.
can't start that
Um,
till the next
There's
phase.
a sign
But the
on-
whole ceiling was replastered,
Oh, wow.
repainted,
Church.
see.
and the pipes and the organ all had to be taken down. And then,
sure?
Parsons
Parsons,
took
yeah.
care
How
of it.
lucky are you that
Gave me
Parsons
one.
is right over the
Is
hill?
Yeah,
right
I gave,
here.
yes, I gave you.
We are so lucky in this
Yeah,
area for our
so-
They
church.
say
I
it's
have
their
this-
organ, we
so I
just
have a lot
use
of
it.
the
Yep.
exactly.
So the last thing I'm gonna mention is, so I have a little project I'm working on in addition to the article. And so if you guys know anything, hear anything, see anything regarding 6200 Fisher Hill Road, it is, to say it's on the corner is not quite accurate. You actually have to go up Fisher Hill just a little bit.
Is that Glenn's house?
Glenn
Glenn
Reed?
Reed? The old house? Glenn Reed's house?
Oh.
I believe that was Timothy or, what was the other one's name? Wells Gooding. Timothy and Wells Gooding lived in that neighborhood along with the widow Gooding. I don't know if widow Gooding was their mom or the wife of one of these two. But the Goodings lived there before County Road 32 was moved. County Road 32 is actually east of where it originally
Yeah.
was.
it used to go right through
Yeah,
the
farm.
farm.
yeah. It's behind the Fletcher place. If you go by the Fletcher place on County Road 32, you look up back, you'll see what looks like a railroad, but it was actually the old road.
So what do you,
So I think that property was a tavern.
oh,
I'm trying to find that out. And it,
What, you
Do you
what?
know Glenn?
I've always loved that house. So I want to talk to you later then, Patty.
Okay.
I know Glenn.
So,
Yeah.
I just love the style of the house. It's very early.
And
And
he's a contractor,
not for
carpenter, so
sale.
he's not, I'm sure he hasn't, brought it some modern weird.
He
yeah,
hasn't
no,
done
it-
anything to it.
no,
And it's
no.
not for sale.
Does he live there all the
Because I
time,
know.
year
Yeah.
round?
No, he does not.
Oh, he doesn't?
No, he does not.
Oh, he used to.
No, he lives up on Knapp Road, but
Oh,
I would love to buy it off him. I'll tell you that.
it's not for sale.
No, I
My
know.
son was looking. We asked him
Um,
about it, but
oh,
he
It's,
thinks he's keeping it for his son. but,
okay, that's
you
great.
know.
So that, I will pass any information on to him too. So that home is in a style that's 18th century.
Mhm.
And when Landmark was doing our recon survey, like their dates were like way off. They're like, well, yeah, it was built between 1765 and 1800. I'm
No.
like, yeah, no, it wasn't.
No.
Right? See Ray's reaction, like,
No.
yeah, that's not possible.
yeah.
But it is in that style.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Stone.
And then I saw
I haven't done
a note that there was a tavern owned by the Goodings. I think it was Wells that ran the tavern. And it has that look. You guys know that look, that tavern look.
Yeah.
I went, oh, I wonder. So I've got to dig around
I've been in a
and
few
see if
too.
that, dig around the deed
No.
and see if that is indeed the
Yeah,
case.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, Glenn.
a thing I'm working on, and I'll probably write about it if it, kind of unearths some interesting stuff. So that's all I have. Everybody good?
Yeah,
All right, then this meeting is adjourned.
I'll see you.
Cody, thank you.
See you at church.
Thank you.
Good
Hi,
seeing you
Cody.
again.
Thank you all. Good to see you.
Um,
Yeah, be sure to come.
Ray